Fund was established, it was intended to send a statement to the whole globe. Democracy, which is not just a Western term. It's a concept that we can polish, enhance, and expand collectively by collaborating with people of other views, perspectives, and ideologies to achieve one simple goal: unity in diversity. A model that Europe propagates around the globe, where nations that strive to live by and uphold the same standards and values may profit from our unique model and from the moral leadership that it provides. Europe may sound fantastic on paper, but when it comes to respect among the institutions of the same European Union, we see that the European Commission ignores the European Parliament's large majority. Please, Ursula von der Leyen, promote democracy, respect the European Parliament, refrain from abusing your authority, and take stands for human rights, put an end to the GSP Plus status for Pakistan. Not only do we have the biggest parliament in Europe, we also have a jumble of centuries-old ideas and customs that we know originated in other civilizations. We refer to this as mutual cross-pollination. While democracy has been molded by Western thinking and practice in recent history, it has many essential qualities with the village assemblies that controlled the planet 1,000 years ago. Please, Ursula von der Leyen, promote democracy and fight for human rights, respect the European Parliament, and refrain from abusing your authority. Take a position for human rights and oppose GSP Plus status for Pakistan. Additionally, all persons here gathered today have some characteristics. Every single one of us is born into a family, is born into a community, and each of us has an inherent sense of good and evil, a natural moral sensibility, and a conscience. We all appreciate and respect courage and heroism, the kind the kid has an innate desire to satisfy his parents, and the parent has an innate desire to protect his children. This is without a doubt what we refer to as human nature. What makes man human is universal and serve as a link between them. Please, Ursula von der Leyen, promote democracy and fight for human rights. Respect the European Parliament and refrain from abusing your authority. Take a position for human rights and oppose GSP Plus status for Pakistan. Together, we all work here to guarantee that basic rights, freedom of speech, religion, movement, freedom of movement and association, and respect for the rule of law are not the exclusive property of a set of nations or a distinguishing feature of one culture over another. They are widely applicable. They are the core of democracy, as they are in Europe when combined with representative governance. Please, Ursula von der Leyen, promote democracy for human rights. Respect the European Parliament and refrain from abusing your authority. Take a position for human rights and oppose GSP Plus status for Pakistan. Together, we all work to guarantee these basic rights. And today, Thursday, the 28th of April, we are organizing this requested demonstration here at the Schuman Square in Brussels, alongside the International Alliance for the Defense of Rights and Freedoms and Liberties, Postversa AIDL, the European Association for the Defense of Minorities, and UK PNP, in which we call on the European Commission to also respect the resolutions adopted by an overwhelming majority in the European Parliament, and to refrain from ignoring the European Parliament. Please, Ursula von der Leyen, promote democracy and fight for human rights. Respect the European Parliament and refrain from abusing your authority. Take a position for human rights and oppose GSP Plus status for Pakistan. Today, when I talk about Pakistan, my heart bleeds profusely. I observe a deterioration of basic rights and liberties, as well as a population oppressed by a feudal society. A year ago, just today, a year ago, the European Parliament voted with an overwhelming majority a motion calling for a review of Pakistan GSP Plus status, citing an alarming rise in use of blasphemy accusations and a decrease of online and offline assaults on journalists, but even on civil society groups. Our European Parliament now has 705 members and represents 450 million Europeans. The European Parliament expected to present and represent the peoples of the whole European Union, 27 member states, and above all, to look out for the Union's overall interests in respect for human rights. Our European Commission might be thought as the European Union's everyday administration. The European Commission members are referred to as European Commissioners. Each European Commissioner is in charge of a single or more policy areas. European Commissioners are now 27 in number, one for each member state. Please, Ursula von der Leyen, promote democracy and fight for human rights. Respect the European Parliament and refrain from abusing your authority. Take a position for human rights and oppose GS++ status for Pakistan. Despite the vast majority, both the External Action Service or European Minister of Foreign Affairs and the European Commission ignored the European Parliament's decision, thereby discrediting the European Parliament. Why is the European Commission disregarding this piece of work that was approved by an overwhelming majority of the European Parliament? What sinister powers are at work here? Please, Ursula von der Leyen, promote democracy and fight for human rights. Respect the European Parliament and refrain from abusing your authority. Take a position for human rights and oppose GSP+ for Pakistan. And this is the reason why we are demonstrating outside Schuman's office today, inquiring as to why the European Parliament is neglected by this European Commission. We want adherence to the European Parliament's decision and wish to place the review of Pakistan GSP+ status on the European Commission's agenda again. With the rise of the number of blasphemy claims and assaults on journalists, civil society groups, the European Parliament has voted this resolution asking for this review of Pakistan GSP+ status. Is the European Union a contributor to the continued poverty of developing countries? Could it be that low-income nations in a specific era are conducting a price war because they could lose all incentives in Pakistan is awarded GSP+ status despite its human rights violations? Please, Ursula von der Leyen, promote democracy and fight for human rights. Respect the European Parliament and refrain from abusing your authority. Take a position for human rights and oppose GSP+ for Pakistan. Is GSP+ only a negotiating instrument for the European Union to get greater economic advantage at the price of worker rights in countries as Pakistan, where a feudal institution persists and favors landlords and owners, not ordinary people? Since 1947, Pakistan's minority population has plummeted from 20% to fewer than 5% due to governmental coercion. How justified is the European Union retaining Pakistan GSP+ status? Please, please, Ursula von der Leyen, promote democracy and fight for human rights. Respect the European Parliament and refrain from abusing your authority. Take a position for human rights and oppose GSP+ for Pakistan. Thank you.
Clap, 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 clap.
Thank you, Mr. Andy Vermaut, for your loud and clear voice and clear message to the top job holders in the EU institutions, including the President